Ladies and gentlemen, let me be very, very clear.
If the Democratic Party becomes the likes of Zoran Mamdani, who, by the way, I like, not trying to throw any shade on him or anything like that, but if the Democratic Party becomes him, you have no chance. You have no chance on a national basis in terms of the presidency. In Senate, seats in the House, you have no chance. You have no chance. I want to be very, very clear about that. You might have a Democratic Socialist sprinkled here and there, but that ain't what America is. America's about capitalism. America's about dollars and cents. America's about an economy, a flourishing economy. Okay? And you know what it's not about? Free stuff. Somebody got to say it, so I'm going to say it.
Somebody got to say it, so let's let the 100 millionaire say it. Okay, what's going on? Zoran Mamdani backed a bunch of Democratic Socialists in New York, both for state level, local level, and national level races into the U.S. Congress. Two of them, Claire Valdez and Daria Lisa Chevalier, are going to Congress. They won their elections. They knocked off Democratic incumbents. They will now be pro-Palestinian progressive voices in the United States Congress. A third one, Brad Lander, also knocked off a Democratic incumbent, even though he's not a Democratic Socialist. He is pro-Palestine. He, as a Jewish person, has condemned AIPAC. Pretty much every establishment, funder, wealthy donor backing AIPAC and all types of establishment candidates got blown out. So what has then happened is damage control. Other Democrats coming out and talking about how disappointed they are in Zoran Mamdani for quote-unquote blowing up the party. Stephen A. Smith, the 100 millionaire. Well, if the party becomes the Democratic Socialists, we're all gonna lose. They have no shot. To Fox News also being on fire.
Okay, you don't freeze rent. Now no one can afford to keep these places going. And I just found out New York City, half of the city is on Medicaid.
Wow.
20% of the city is on food stamps. 5% of the city lives in the projects. 70% of the city's not white. 40% of the city wasn't even born in America. We are going down a dangerous road already.
Stephen A. Smith is paid controlled opposition, and you should know that. He says if the party becomes the likes of Zoran Mamdani, why don't we ever talk about the actual thing? You mean the motherfucker who balanced the budget, who just banned ICE from city property, who's been attacking price gouging, including during the World Cup when they up concession prices, saving people money in their real life, tackling dynamic pricing with Uber Eats, DoorDash, making sure those workers are taken care of, the ones who've stood up to AIPAC, the main funders of a fucking genocide that we're implicated in, the one who froze the rent, who got universal childcare through, the person who's starting development on those affordable housing that he talked about, and the person who, after achieving all of those things, had the Knicks win the fucking finals. In fact, he pitched the candidates that he was backing in an ad while the finals was happening. Ask the people, yo, if you agree with the vision I've been laying out so far because you took a chance on me even getting me here, please vote for these candidates as well. And then they won too. If the party became capable of doing that on a national scale, they'd blow out anybody, including the Republicans. They would never get elected again. But it's not the policy and the thing that he's actually done that we're talking about in this hypothetical world that would get the Democrats blown out. It's because the word socialism, and it's too far left and progressive, so therefore it can only work in New York City, the place that brought us Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Bill de Blasio, fucking Donald Trump. Has all of a sudden it just become the socialist utopia. No, it was organized that way through multiple people on the ground, working people, DSA members, and it was built upon after promises started being delivered. This theory that the too far left, too woke position couldn't work in middle America or rural America is also ahistorical and full of fucking dumb shit assumptions. I think about the 20s and 30s when the Democratic Socialists in America had a little bit more institutional power. They were building coalitions between, yes, factory laborers, but also farmers, people in rural areas. Do you know why? It's because Stephen A. Smith will never tell you what capitalism or socialism is, along with many Democratic establishment types. They will just say the words as buzzwords, one being good, one being bad and foreign. But the class politic that's at the heart of socialism and democratic socialism explains why they could go into rural farm areas and find support and popularity back then. Yes, racism, of course, and we have yet to roll out any political ideology in this country that's fully inclusive of black and brown people in America, because, you know, we run on capitalism, which we'll get back to that. But back in those days and today, what is that class fight? Your local farm, your local family farm, trying to make ends meet, trying to sell the things that they're putting in the labor to grow out their own ground, versus Purdue, the big factory farm, meat producers that they have to sell to, they have to negotiate with, and that are oftentimes just trying to monopolize as much of the market as possible. So you go to them and say, hey, family farm, you deserve to not be cheated out of your wages, you deserve to be compensated, you deserve to have fair working conditions, and they support you because you're supporting their direct livelihood. This is something that many socialists, communists, and everything got in the 1920s and 30s in America, back when the Democratic Socialists had more power, because all socialism is doing is creating and building coalitions amongst working class people who are not too separated based on the amount of money that they're making. What's the problem now? One, show me a time in American history where the Democratic Party has spent millions of dollars backing far left socialist candidates around the country. We don't, as the Democratic Party, go to those communities and pitch them that. We sit there and we write off these people in suburban and rural communities as though they could just never get with the program or all this woke stuff. That's because we've had 40 years of not educating our populace on why it's not just woke stuff. Why have we had 40 years of that? Because the Democrats voted with Republicans like last year to condemn socialism. It's not about what's finding the best ideology, regardless of whether or not you agree or disagree with it, to support people's needs. It's about maintaining the status quo of the people who are already in power. A lot of them are wealthy corporate owners who are doing lobbying, buying politicians. So your universal health care, that's a program that will put private companies out of business. We're gonna lobby against that forever. Farming protections and reining in big pharma? No. We're all supposed to sit back and act as though it just wouldn't work because it's too liberal and too far left in Zohar Mamdani, and our country doesn't run on free stuff. You know what's funny? When Stephen A. Smith says that our country runs on capitalism and it's not on free stuff, I agree with him, and I think he's right there. He's so right. So right, in fact, that him saying that immediately reminded me of the Dred Scott decision in 1857, when the Supreme Court declared that enslaved and free African Americans were not citizens of the United States and could not sue in federal court. Chief Justice Roger Taney wrote the 7-2 majority opinion stating that African Americans, whether enslaved or free, were not intended to be included under the word citizens in the Constitution of the United States, and the court decided that the slaves were property under the Fifth Amendment. Therefore, Congress could not deprive citizens of their property in the territories because America runs on dollars and cents and not on free stuff or free people. When it made dollars and cents, they were able to get a whole workforce and not pay them any wage and put up with any condition that the slave master deemed acceptable. And then when trying to sue for their freedom, they said, nah, America wasn't like that. America wasn't built to include black people in that citizen word. Why doesn't Stephen A. Smith talk about that when he talks about what America's about? Why is it just about this phantom capitalism thing? Not capitalism specifically applied in the context of you niggas are not deserving of having any standard of living that the white man should respect. Come work for me on this plantation for whatever wage I say, that being no wages. We need a thriving economy, right? You can't just have free black people roaming around. Oh, but we could, and we should have. And then we did, and did we fall to shit? Something tells me if Western companies weren't able to do slavery and genocide in the third world, we might suffer until those companies have to find out another way to make money. In the same way the slave owners found out another way to make money. Knowing America, how they'd probably do it was say you could be arrested and forced to work for Apple building their phones. The reason why I bring up Dred Scott, though, is to point out how crazy it is that a black man making millions of dollars is sitting here trying to defend to you the status quo that is American capitalism, the same status quo that would have had him enslaved and working for none of the wages that he's currently having. And he's able to get away with that because we are not supposed to be talking about these topics actually. The existence of a political movement like the one that Zohar Mamdani is building is a direct threat to the ESPNs of the world, to the Disneys of the world, and by extension, to the Stephen A. Smiths of the world. I and you probably watching this video are not included in that group. So we look around and we wonder why Stephen A. Smith never has the thing to say that would make sense within the community of people that he's supposed to come from. And that's because he's not on your side. To chalk up wanting to tax those who have skirted on taxes for decades and redistribute their wealth so that we can have an interconnected society that's building into the modern era via high-speed rail, via healthcare, via job guarantees, via investments in green energy. To chalk that all up as, oh, it's free stuff and America can't do it. Well, reminds me of a way someone would chalk up slavery to being, you know what, we can't let them blacks out. That's just how America is. Why would you want to change what America's about? That nigga right there, Stephen A. Smith, stands on the shoulders of people who saw that same proposition of how America was started, founded on slavery and everything, and said, I don't accept it. Let's change it and define it for ourselves. He's standing on the shoulders of those people, saying there's no point for you to change anything. Just accept what it is. You know why? Because he got $100 million at being how it is. Stephen A. Smith can weaponize the fact that American capitalism tells you that if you work hard enough, you'll just be Stephen A. Smith, in order to tell you that, yeah, the reason why we not doing shit is because you're not working hard enough. Why would you want a handout? And what does that do? That gets you to stop asking for shit, to stop demanding better, to stop demanding change. And then Stephen A. gets to collect another bag, and we all get to turn our brains off. This half-hearted, half-intelligent, barely trying, just yelling and being incensed commentary, especially about Zoran Mamdani and the likelihood that democratic socialism becomes a movement in this country in order to combat, mind you, the fascists in the White House and the fascist collaborators in both parties in Congress, from this grown-ass millionaire man who's had a show in sports for decades, but he is able to pass off with this sorry-ass analysis because he wants to make the white people who watched him for sports feel confident enough to be like, there's no reason why I gotta question my political opinion. See, I was right all along, and Stephen A. saying the good shit. Just for them same white people who know him from First Take to give him 0.5% in any election he ever runs for ever, no matter how big his podcast gets. Because the demographic of people who are educated in this society in America are not black conservatives, and the people who are uneducated are too racist to vote for black conservatives. That's all I'm saying. Have a good day.